Hi, welcome back to the Elite Automation YouTube channel. I'm Malachi, CEO and engineer of Elite Automation. So if you're watching this video today, you probably have these alarms here. We're gonna make this a quick one. We have a longer Mac valve video that goes into like more of the entire setup of this thing, but I kind of just want to do a quick 5-minute video of how to get past some of the issues you may have with this thing. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this thing. So you probably have this valve stack fault right here, power cycle required. So we're going to go ahead and take you through what a potential issue may be. So this is just one particular issue. There could be many things causing this issue. But I do know what the issue that we currently have with this one right now is that the module configuration is not appropriate. So this right here is what the module as a whole, the whole entire stack is configured at. And as you can see right here, this is what our current stack looks like. So we have an input module, and then we basically just have solenoids over here. So this one's not very complex. It's a very simple application. So in here you have a bunch of different configuration items, and if you look at this list right here, it tells you what the number designation is for each one of the different types of modules. So I'm going to take you over to the web browser of the Mac valve. So you just put in the Mac valve's IP address. You got to look up what the default IP address is, unless you've already set that. So if you know the IP address of that, you can come into here, and then you can go to status, and right here it'll tell you what kind of module you have. So this is the input, NPN, input. So if you go back to our list in Studio 5000, you have an input, NPN, input, NPN. So it should be a 1, and we don't have any other modules, so no module should be a 0. So what we'll do is we'll come in here, we'll just do this live edit, change all of these to a 0, and then we'll change this to a 1. Okay, now we need to accept these edits. And after these edits we'll accept, we'll press this toggle button right here, and it'll shove this new configuration out to the Mac valve. So we shove that new configuration out to the Mac valve. If you come back over here to solenoid control, you'll notice that you're still faulted out. Also, another bit is on power cycle required. So I'm going to show you a quick way to power cycle this thing. If you go back to its web browser, you actually have the ability to cycle power from here. So all you got to do is do a reset device. So it is the equivalent of a power on reset. So we're going to reset this, and then we're going to jump back into Studio 5000, and here you go. No more valve stack faults. You should be good to go, good to operate. Hopefully this helped you get through any of the issues that you may have. While we're on this video, I'll probably make a separate video for this as well, but while we're here, I just want to take you through something real quick that could be confusing with these Mac valves, and then you have to look up in the documentation and find this if you do not know how it's set up. So if you go to valve stack output, okay, normally this will be in data array 2. So here's your data array 2. And if you notice, I'll try to fire this, show a 1 in, and it wrote it right back to a 0. The reason why is the AOI is writing to data array 2 and data array 3. So both these data arrays are being written to by the AOI. So if I try to put a 1 in any of these, it's going to write it right back to a 0. Now, Mac anticipates for you to leave this solenoid control on all the time, okay? Now, if you turn this AOI off, then you can go back to utilizing the data array 2 and 3. If you use the AOI, then it's going to be of the tag name that you generated right here. So configuration tag name station 1. Now to me personally, this just adds a lot of complexity, but you also lose a lot of functionality if you don't use this AOI. So to me, I somewhat prefer just firing the bits directly, but then again, like I said, you lose a lot of this functionality. Like if you want to try to display any of these issues on like an HMI screen, you can look at like your fault last message and be able to display something like that on an HMI screen. But if you don't use your AOI, you don't really have that capability. So going back into the tag database, if we go find station 1, And then notice it says station 1, solenoid 1, solenoid 2, solenoid 3. So if I go right here and I try to fire a 1, it's going to write it right back to a 0 as well. But the reason why this one's writing back to a 0 is because we already have some PLC logic written for this. If I'm not mistaken, I can come in here to like, I think it's 7, because I did this the other day. 1 and fire it. Boom. As you can see right here, we have a valve that's on. And so it's the 1, 2, 3, fourth one over, okay? So the way these work, as far as like how the solenoids lay out, will depend on what type of solenoid you're using. It won't just be 1, 2, 3, 4 if you're using a valve type that only has one solenoid on it. It'll essentially allocate automatically 2 spaces for each valve, whether there's 2 solenoids on it or not. So if I go back into the PLC logic right here, if I'm not mistaken, so if I fire 6, 6 will fire, but it actually won't do anything. So I turn on 6, and then we come back to here. Notice no more LEDs are on, but if we go fire 5, it'll fire the one to the left of the one that's currently on. So let's go back into PLC logic to show you that real quick. Go and open up 5, and then change that to a 1. Boop, and then there you go. Your second solenoid's on. So hopefully that kind of helps with like the mapping of your solenoid firing, because that stuff can be kind of complicated and be one of the trickier parts. You might have to go through the documentation and really read where everything's supposed to be, which is kind of what you have to do anyway for pretty much any device. But I know for some people it can kind of be a struggle and be confusing and kind of hard to do. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you have solenoids down here. So station solenoids, output all. So you can turn on this output all, and then this is actually each individual solenoid as well, if I'm not mistaken. So this is not going to actually work appropriately because we have PLC logic that's associated with this. So it's kind of like you use one or the other. You don't use both. So it did fire it. And that's kind of what I was saying, like it's kind of tricky, and I'm not exactly positive how this works, because technically this one right here is the same one that's up here that won't write to a 1 right now. So it's the station 1, solenoid 1. Notice how it's a 0, and if I try to shove a 1 into it, it shoves it right back to a 0. So technically we have a destructive bit. You can see it right here actually. We have a destructive bit. So you got to be careful doing this. See how it's writing it to a 1 and a 0, 1 and a 0 right here? That's called a destructive bit, and that's because in the PLC logic we're using this tag name here, but then also down here we set a 1 in this, which both of those write to the same solenoid. This is actually much cleaner. Like if I was probably in our logic, we would have utilized this for our regular outputs, so that way things just fire more easily. And if I'm not mistaken, this also is the same situation. So it's going to be every other 1. So your 0 and then your 2 are going to be the solenoid next to it. So it fires 2. And then let's just go look and see which one's on, just so we can kind of confirm that real quick. So boom, it turned the next one on. So even down there in the other part, even down here in these output alls, it still is every other 1 bit mapping. So it automatically allocates two outputs per valve, whether it has 1 solenoid or 2. So guys, hopefully this video is useful for you all. We kind of ran through some things quickly. We went through quite a few things, like how to get rid of the fault on the solenoid control, how to configure the device, how to cycle the power on the device, how the outputs map out. Kind of just wanted to make this one as a quicker video. I think we're like at roughly like 10 minutes or something for this video. And the other one was like a 20-minute video, so this definitely consolidated a bunch of the information into a smaller, more concise video. And I think it'll be definitely very useful for somebody out there. So thank you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.